Hello, welcome to Gamer Ghosts. I am Gamer Ghost Dad, and we have a special video today. If you follow my Twitter, you know I like to modify a variety of different consoles to kind of learn a little more about it. And I went through a period where I did about 5 to 6 different Genesis consoles installing triple bypasses. Well, it came a time to sell all those consoles, and one of them arrived with my friend Jimmy, and Jimmy reported that the colors were off, which I was kind of a jerk about and said, no, it left working just fine. But Jimmy insisted, gave me all the right information, shared everything he should have. So first of all, I apologize to Jimmy for being a little defensive of my art. But he very kindly and carefully sent the console back, and we're going to take a look at what's really wrong with it here. So first I'm going to cut away to a couple of the videos. I tested HDMI first of all, and it seemed to be completely okay. I'll just let the gameplay footage play here. And then I tried Composite, which is what he was primarily using. And just a little bit of background, when you install a triple bypass, typically it destroys the composite output. But with this, using Zaxor's Triple Bypass Plus, you restore the composite, so people who are wanting to use composite instead of the RGB can use that kind of cable. And as you can see here, something is off. It's like looks like we're missing the blue. Possibly the blue cable came loose. So let's come back to the console. We're going to take it apart and just see what's inside, and I thought I'd just share the journey with everyone as we go along. So with the Genesis, it's pretty easy to take apart. First, you remove the expansion port, and then we have 4 Phillips screws. I'm going to use my Ryobi to make this easier here, and it has a ridiculously long bit. But there's 1. 2. Sometimes you gotta get to where you're on the thread first. 3. And 4. So you can see I do like to put a little sticker saying what I did with the date, just so everyone understands what happened if this falls into other people's hands. All right, and that's really it for opening. Now you just lift the top off, and we get a view of the RF shielding. And just visually, everything looks okay. So let's move on to removing the other screws. So we have quite a few here that go all the way around. So let's start on that. Looks like I had a missing screw there. There typically would be one right there. These are always a pain to get out of the RF shield. It kind of sticks, holds onto the screws with its tiny finger cutting metal. Now I should have separated out my case screws, so let me do that just to make sure here. You can tell in this particular model they're different, as the screws used to go into the plastic have a little of the self-tapping on them. Alright, go all the way around here. Now this also has a USB-C mod. So you'll see that once we get this shield removed. And I think that's it, except for right over here. I really do like the 1.8 motherboard version. These are always so fun to get out. Let me get my tweezers here. terms of the triple bypass, it is pretty easy to install. Let me just make sure I've got all the screws out. I believe I do. It's just a little tight, as it should be. All right. So, looking at the top here, I'll try not to get the glare. You can see we have a USB-C mod connecting to the power ports. And then you can see right here, this is actually where we are pulling the video signal for our RGB and for the composite. You can see actually both sides of it here. And the first thing I'm going to do is just take a look and see if I notice anything obvious on that side. They all seem to be connected. Let's give them a little tug. My concern might be is, did something happen on how tightly this is in there? Did a cable get cut on the blue? So let's continue to remove this. So to take the motherboard out all the way, you just remove these two screws which hold the controller port in. But before I do, I might highlight a few things that are on this from the triple bypass. You can see where we removed this chip completely, and a lot of the caps are gone that were part of the actual building of the video signal, which is now replaced by the triple bypass. This is actually for audio, these two jumpers joining together, so we can pull the audio from the bottom of the board at a really nice, easy place. But I love the triple bypass for just how much it allows you to remove. And we did see from an RGB perspective, it's completely okay. It's just on the composite restore. And I guess I should also point out the composite restore for this particular motherboard is coming right up here. These are actually used for the RGB. So let's get this off and take a look at the bottom where all the magic is really happening at. This is a longer black screw. Get a good close camera view there of my screwdriver. And let's carefully take this off. Kind of have to lift up and pull away from the controller port a little bit. You can see that these holes are elongated, so you can pull back as you go. But it should come out. Set this aside. This is something really important. You want to make sure that you don't misplace this. This provides, Genesis consoles are pretty hardy in terms of their edge. When you're pushing down and pulling out, this makes sure it has a solid surface instead of bending the board. Okay, let's turn this around and take a closer look at what's going on here. So right away, I immediately see the problem. The blue for so this portion of the board right here from Zaxor's Triple Bypass version 2 Plus, Triple Bypass version 2 Plus, that's fun to say fast, is he's actually added really nice points to pull from the board here, or to feed into the board, I should say. And it also has the correct resistors installed, so you don't have to add them either. So that is exactly the problem for us here, is that blue has come loose. It doesn't look like it even really got soldered. You can see here where we're pulling audio for the different parts of the triple bypass board. So we pull audio for the Genesis, we pull audio from the PSG for the Genesis, and the prior generation we pull for 32X, and we pull for the Sega CD. So all of this audio goes in. I just sold another one of these, and I had a question on, does this work with Sega CD? And the answer is yes, because ultimately we are following the same paths for the Sega CD. We're grabbing the audio from the same place that the output would be grabbing the audio after it comes in from the Sega CD. It's just processing everything from this point. Alright, so let's give this a quick fix. And it really isn't going to take much. So let me off camera turn on my soldering iron. And I think I really have enough solder Sorry if I'm getting away from the mic here. Enough solder on the point. I just need to get the wire down and really secure it. So what looks like happened, I probably tested it and it was fine. And maybe when I installed it, I knocked it loose. So lesson learned. Always, check while you've got everything available where you can fix it, and then test again once more when you get everything into the casing, just to make sure that you're not going to send something out that's not working great. While I wait for my soldering iron to heat up, looks like it's about ready here. The way I test these is I actually use a Mega EverDrive Pro, and that'll let me test the Master System, it'll let me test Genesis, and it'll let me test Sega CD, which is awesome without having to attach the Sega CD. Again, the same traces will come from the controller port that do from the expansion board for the Sega CD data and sound. What I can't test is 32X. The Mega EverDrive Pro does not support the emulation of that. It might someday. Maybe he'll add some FPGA functionality, and I'm going to use a word that I know the FPGA crowd don't like, to emulate that. But for now, I did actually use a 32X to test as well. So I'll throw a 32X on. I can still use the cartridge to do 32X, but I need to have the physical 32X to do it. It doesn't do the same thing like it does with the Sega CD. So, okay, looks like my soldering iron is ready to go here. I'm also going to get my tweezers ready. Let me flip this over. And again, I don't know if the camera could really see what the problem was. I'm not getting focus here, but you can see that blue cable is loose. So I'm going to get that cable. I'm going to give it a little bit of downward slope, so when I hold everything in, I can make sure it goes in. Okay. Grab my soldering iron. And try to do this on the side of the mic here. Just get that in there so it's actually on really well. I'm going to give it a little tug, move it around, and make absolutely sure. And you can see it looks like we're on now. Okay, so now let's do a quick test. So I'm going to cut away to the my video input on the computer as we test everything out here. Okay, so I think I'm ready to test now. You can see I have my cartridge in, I have my USB-C power, and I have my video out cables. They connect to a RetroTink 5X, which then goes into a Elgato HD60S, so I can record and capture that. So I'm going to switch over to that input now, and we're going to turn everything on. I need to connect my controller. Already I can tell it's better. So you can see I was just hooking up my controller. You can see the blue LED that we added as well. And let's go down and test the same game that we've been testing, which is Arrow Flash. Voila! Much better. Let's make sure that we still have audio input, and then we'll put it back together and test one more time. So I'll do the same kind of review here. Off and switch back to our scene, and I'm gonna remove the controller, remove our video, remove our power, remove our cartridge. And when you're removing, when everything's not attached, be careful to give it some support so you don't bend the board. And let's start putting everything together. One more time, I'm going to check, make sure that if I give things a little tug, a little movement, stuff they're going to experience when they're going in, make sure everything's away for when I put it back into the peg. And again, if you angle this, it works a lot easier. Okay, so we're in. Let's go in reverse order. Those two screws, and then we have our RF shield. You can see the RF shield we did trim a little bit to make room for the USB-C. Put that in nice and snug, and then we'll start going all the way around with all the screws. Okay. Now we're ready for the cover. Just goes on nice and snug. It's on the top, and then you can drop in your screws, but don't drop them in backwards. Guess we'll do this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and finally 4. I like to hold the case shut as I'm doing this, just to make sure I get a nice tight fit. And then we're going to install the expansion port cover. And there we have the Genesis back. Let's try one more time, following my lesson learned. Okay. There's our video. Here is that. Alright. Controller. Set aside our screwdriver. And let's go. Switch to our video input. Okay, so far so good. Go over. And there we have it. Looking good. Blue instead of not blue. Crazy colors. apologies to Jimmy, who I did give a hard time saying, hey, it left my house working, but clearly something happened where that wire went loose, and that's on me. I want to make it secure enough that it can survive shipping. So again, my apologies to Jimmy, and this is going to get ready to go to someone that'll give it a loving home. I will say to the folks that buy these consoles, if you want to really get the most out of these, you want to use something that's going to use the RGB signals. And if you use a standard Genesis composite cable, you are not going to get the sharp picture and the RGB plugs. So some of the cables I really recommend are the HD Retrovision Genesis to component cables. You can get the even some of the cheap HDMI adapters will use it. The retro gaming cables, Rad2X, or their version of the component cable is also a great option. But if you get a RGB upgrade console, which still will have, for Genesis 2, the jail bars are a big issue. Like in different versions, they used a video chip that introduced some extra noise through all the different components. So you'll still be getting cleaner component or composite, but you want that nice sharp RGB goodness. So that's it for now. Thank you, everyone. Have an awesome week.